quick round of introductions. Let's start with Daniel.
Hi, my name is Daniel Krook. I joined the CNCF about 3 years ago. Before that, I was at IBM for about 20 years. My team focuses on maintainer satisfaction, so making sure that folks like Metal Cubed and all these other maintainers we have in our projects get the support they need from the foundation and are successful and grow and mature.
Hi, my name is Faseela. So I work in the Technical Oversight Committee of the club. Yeah, so I'm a TOC, a member of the CNCF, and also work as a cloud native developer at Ericsson. So yeah, but as in the TOC, we guide the technical direction of the overall CNCF project, supporting the technical direction for the CNCF mission. And for my day job, I work prioritizing the 5G requirements for Ericsson in the open source community.
Yep, and then it's me, Jan Melén, and I'm the governing board vice chair. So there is actually Christopher Blecker is the chair, and then there is another vice chair, Lachlan Evanson, who is also in the governing board. But governing board is basically sort of looking at the kind of budgeting, marketing, broad spectrum of the strategic direction of CNCF for the future. And kind of my daily job, I work for Ericsson Software Technology, and I'm heading the cloud team inside that group. So all the Metal Cube shirted guys you see here in the audience are actually part of my team as well. So, but anyway,
you're the boss.
Sort of, yeah, kind of the boss.
Clap. So we have over-representation from Ericsson here. So you answered part of the question I was going to ask. What does the GB do? Like, how do you advocate for the projects or for the developers and like for the foundation? Like, you have an outbound, you have an inbound, you have multiple ways of looking at things. How do you go about it, Jan?
Yeah, so I know I kind of jumped already on the first question that Dims was planning to ask, but kind of I would say that the governing board is looking more the kind of broad strategy direction that what is actually CNCF going about. And then if I compare that to what sort of TOC or DAB is doing, it's more sort of that we have a diverse group of sort of members in the governing board who have a background more on the product, kind of engineering side, product engineering leaders. We have sort of OSPO representatives, developer relation type of roles there. So we maybe look more from the actual aspect of keeping the kind of ecosystem technically viable in a sense that you can actually also create business out of all of the projects that are within the CNCF ecosystem. And that's maybe my sort of interpretation how it differs from the different roles on TOC and DAP. But maybe Faseela can give another insight on that.
Over to you, Faseela.
Yeah, from the TOC perspective, I do have a keynote in the afternoon where I'm going to talk about this in detail, so do join there as well. So the TOC is basically giving the technical direction and stewardship for all the CNCF projects, like 220 plus projects. So the work is more like assessing the maturity of these different projects and giving standards or best practices and guidance in those directions, and deciding how these projects collaborate and how do they sustain. So these kinds of questions are that we usually guide the projects on. So it's not just project review kind of work. We also make sure, the ecosystem is sustainable in the long run, and we always assess the health of the projects. And it's not like you enter the ecosystem once and you stay there. So we have processes in place to make sure the health is assessed frequently, and even if there is any support needed for projects, and if they reach out to us, we have processes in place to help them out. Yeah, so that's what basically the technical governance kind of thing. It's not like we are developing the projects ourselves as in the TOC, or going and micromanaging each of these projects, but it is more like the overall sustainability of the ecosystem in the technical direction and guiding in that angle.
So if Metal Cube folks have a problem, do they come to you?
No, they go to not to me.
Just kidding. So Daniel, can you cover the end user tab and the work that the CNCF staff itself ongoing? How you engage with the projects and the community.
Yeah, there's many kind of governing structures within the CNCF. So Jan mentioned the governing board. There's the technical oversight committee, which is technical experts from the industry. And then there's a technical advisory board, end user technical advisory board. So a company like OPE upstairs, they don't build a Kubernetes product. They don't build and sell a service. They actually consume the services. So we have something that end user companies that rely on the open source projects can come join and provide their point of view, discuss, for example, reference architectures, which is the key thing that we want folks to know about, given that there's so many different ways to solve a problem with the 250 plus projects we have in the CNCF. But yeah, and the staff in general, we also work very closely with all of these folks. So we provide project management support to Faseela, make sure the elections run well. They've got the meeting scheduling tools. So chopping wood and carrying water is kind of what the staff does behind the scenes as part of paid staff at the foundation, and supporting running events, doing training and certification, all that sort of stuff that makes it very successful for projects to live there.
I'll start the next question with you. What is it in it for a project to join CNCF? What do they get out of it?
Yeah, so the reason that someone would bring their open source project to the CNCF, I think there's probably three important things. Number one is kind of neutral hosting of the IP. So when a project comes in, it hands over its trademark. We take the spare keys to the GitHub repo. It's still run by the maintainers, but we're there to make sure they can't rug pull it or close it or make it private once people have brought it into the CNCF. So that provides a strong guarantee for the project that it's going to live on, and also the end users or anybody who relies on that project. So we provide the IP structure for that. Secondarily, we kind of provide a center of gravity where people see a project in the CNCF and then they see another project and another project. So you kind of have a place where people go to look for cloud native or cutting edge technologies, and we run events that help bring that community together. And then I'd say the third thing that we provide, why people come to the foundation, is we also have a lot of great partnerships, for example, with GitHub. So we provide GitHub Copilot enterprise licenses to all our maintainers. We've got like Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, cloud credits that folks can use, and various other services. We just had a partnership, for example, with Kappa.ai that is a way to expose your docs for your project in an easier way for end users to consume.
So Faseela, from the TOC point of view, what can a project expect when they come to you, and how do you progress them over time?
Yes, so one of the major duties or the work we do in the TOC is like moving projects across maturity levels. So for those people who don't know about the maturity levels, the CNCF projects can be like either sandbox, incubation, or graduation. The sandbox is like early experimental projects, and incubation is like projects that are like proving adoption and have got more community support, and graduation is like, it's like production ready, and then a lot of adopters, and then you're really mature for ecosystem adoption. So these are the different levels. So most of the projects, they start with the sandbox level. There are certain cases where projects directly come to the incubation level as well. So whenever a project applies to move levels, it is the TOC that guides them through the due diligence, look at the project and see different aspects, and decide whether they're really ready for the next level or whether they have to go back and do some improvements before trying. So some of the things which we usually look at are like the governance and how the contributor ladder is defined, the security aspects, and what else? Yeah, the technical readiness.
Okay. Any projects other than Metal Cube here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just use Metal Cube. What level are they?
They are in incubation
Okay.
level. So I think last year, right? Oh,
Yay!
okay. KBD Sandbox, yeah, and then Metal Cube recently moved to incubation. So I know that they had like a very good time discussing with the TOC and improving their own governance and adopter structure and all those things. So these are the usual things which we give feedback on to make sure you have end users listed properly in your project as adopters, and whether your governance is transparent and how you make decisions and all those things are clearly documented and transparent, whether you have properly documented security guidelines. And yeah, these are the technical aspects, whether we do proper technical review of the project and make sure things are in place, you have proper release management in place, and yeah, these are the kinds of things we usually look for.
Nice. So question for Jan. This two-part question. First part is like your company and your stack, Ericsson stack uses a lot of open source projects. How do you figure out which ones to use, which ones to back, and the opposite side also, like when do you know, or how do you know what to take as open source into the community?
Yeah, so let's start from the first part. So what do we use, and how do we actually find projects that we believe that are sort of maintained well? One of the tools that actually is also provided by sort of LF is the LFX Insights. It actually gives very good sort of visibility on the different sort of CNCF projects, that who are the maintainers, who are contributors, sort of what's the health of the project, and also some of the sort of security views on the project side. So that is definitely one of the sort of metrics that we use when we are selecting different sort of projects internally for our product. So looking at who is there active. So if we see that there are, well, let's pick an example. We see that Red Hat, Nokia, or Microsoft is very active on the projects. Then of course it gives us also a bit of sort of kind of backing that we believe that this project will be maintained also in the future. Because if you look at our sort of production systems, when we are delivering something to our customer, it's not like that we can replace it in every year. It's more like that same system has to be running for the next 10 to 15 years in that environment. So basically for us, it is very important to see that kind of there is an active community behind the projects that we are picking up, because unless there is the active community, then it means that, okay, we need to take kind of the responsibility to maintain them by ourselves, and kind of doing all the work, all the legwork by ourselves. So while we kind of look at those aspects, and when we select certain projects, we are actually also kind of stepping into being an active maintainer or active contributor to the project as well, because those projects that we are selecting as part of our products, they are the ones that we usually also contribute back to. So a bit answers on the second part of the question that Dims was asking, but then in the kind of broader spectrum, how do we sort of open source stuff? So usually we do open source quite a bit of like the Metal Cube. That was one of the big projects that we did a lot of open source contributions on. And the decision came from the fact that actually we wanted to have sort of more broader standardization. How do you actually do sort of bare metal provisioning with the Kubernetes? So that was one of the major factors that kind of contributed to the fact that why we started to contribute to Metal Cube. We saw that that's the way to actually kind of standardize, somewhat standardize the ways how you actually manage the Kubernetes clusters, and kind of the reasons also often why we sort of engage in certain sort of projects. So we want to see that there is a standard platform that we all can support. So regardless if the infra would be provided by sort of Red Hat or it would be provided by us, you can actually run the same 5G applications, which are the core business of Ericsson. So it's kind of that kind of a balance that we are looking at. Then, of course, the internal secret sauce on our products is a different thing.
So
but I think that's what every company sort of holds in their pocket.
In my mind, I was betting who would say the word Kubernetes first. And the credit goes to Jan. The two of you failed. Nah. So, Jan, how much discussion has there been on the CNCF board? Okay, kicking this into the next gear. Like, is the base clear to everybody? Like, why and what and who kind of thing, right? So now kicking into the next gear. How much discussion has happened on the AI front in the GB around like what we should be doing or how we should be doing or how should we be thinking about it?
Yeah, there has been quite a bit of discussion about AI in sort of multiple different aspects, I would say, within the GB. So what I see is that kind of AI and AI workloads, they are not sort of, or they are actually accelerating kind of the adoption of cloud native technologies. That's kind of my personal view, because what we see in the industry is that everybody wants to run their sort of AI workloads, AI inference somewhere. And kind of the cloud native technologies is one of the most logical choices that people are doing in that space. And that is actually one of the things that also has been sort of discussed within the GB, that especially that this AI conformance test, what should it actually include? Should we include in the conformance test that we actually sort of verify the sort of AI training kind of use cases? Should we also only focus on AI inference, or should we actually look at the sort of different kind of agentic use cases as well as part of the AI inference? And how do we sort of navigate through that? And that is one of the more active discussions that we have together with the TOC with regards to the AI, sort of how shall sort of the cloud native ecosystem actually see AI and AI workloads in the future, and how do we sort of guarantee the portability between the different deployments, that actually your sort of AI use cases can be run on any standard Kubernetes sort of platform on that.
Understood. Faseela, do you want an easy question or a hard question?
Go ahead with whatever.
Let me ask you something somewhere in the medium, right? So, what is the TOC doing to target our community towards that goal that Jan was laying out?
Yes, some of the recent works, whatever I've seen, so one thing that comes immediately to mind is the recent AI and the impact of AI in open source security, the white paper that was just published day before yesterday, I think, in collaboration with OpenSSF. And the major things that were discussed there is like AI is not changing any of the fundamentals for the security, what the cloud native tooling and technology is already providing, but it's just changing the velocity and scale at which we have to manage these things. So from the security perspective, I think that is what we are majorly looking at. And even if we talk about the project maturities, which we already talked about, if you see the timeline of the graduated projects, whatever I'm seeing from 2025 till now, incubating and graduating projects, most of the projects which are like graduating or incubating are like AI adjacent technologies. If you see the latest OpenTelemetry graduating or Kivano, last year we have KServe incubating, and now Kubeflow has applied for graduation. So all of these things are really showing that cloud native technologies, we do have the technologies which are needed for AI adoption and handle this scale and velocity, and they are maturing in the right time, in the right direction.
So Daniel, should CNCF be in the business of doing this, chasing the the latest stuff? How would you frame this as like, are we doing the right thing? Is this the right time for us to go? Are they the people that we need to quote? Is it like us versus them, or like is it seamless? How do you see it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of the things I've always kind of observed and pointed out about the CNCF, even when I was there at IBM and we were kind of launching it with one together as one of the launch partners, was the CNCF was always interesting because it was built to host Kubernetes, but it wasn't called the Kubernetes Foundation. It always had a vision to go beyond, to build and provide an ecosystem for cloud native computing, not to be prescriptive about the winners and losers, and for example, having Rocket and Containerd in, it didn't pick one or the other. And I think what's really been successful about the CNCF in general is staying ahead of the most important technology trends. So starting from containers to orchestration, to serverless, to WASM, and now I think AI is kind of the natural extension of that. It's building the workloads that are important to the critical infrastructure of the world, which is really the mission of the CNCF. So we also have all the lessons built over the 10 years that people in AI are starting to learn they need. For example, to run those inference platforms, they need an observability stack. They need a way to do distributed workloads. They need a way to slice up GPUs, which is what the AI conformance is all about as one of its aspects. So I think it's always going to be important that the CNCF is there at the forefront of these innovations, bringing our lessons, but also supporting the brand new applications that are creating new workloads.
Sounds awesome. So let me switch to the dark side. What is the effect of the AI stuff on the projects? Daniel, you go first.
Yeah. And there's definitely positives and negatives, right? So we see, for example, I mentioned we offer our projects now GitHub Copilot Enterprise. Our maintainers are always hitting the service desk asking for access to that. And it's great because it's helping them projects mature faster. Really, we want them to go from sandbox to incubated to graduated, become important, high quality projects. So the tools are there, they're available to increase that velocity. And on the downside of it, I think there's also some questions. I was talking with Jan earlier, is you have a lot of AI now that folks are using to report security issues, some real, some not so real. And that puts a burden on maintainers to investigate, is this a real issue or not? And we've also seen, for better or for worse, we always wanted to have new contributors in our CNCF environment, new maintainers. But the calculus is flipped now, where it used to be a higher barrier to join and contribute, make your first contribution to a CNCF project. Now it's very low, and instead the maintainers have the higher burden, really, of managing the new the code that comes in, understanding how much the contributor knows about what they contributed, and whether they want to accept that, whether it's really something that has clean IP. So we've worked on some policies around generative AI policies. I know a bunch of our projects have kind of released new policies around it to kind of get around or address some of these issues. But it's still an active conversation about what's exactly the benefit, what's the negative, and how do we manage that risk.
How many of you use AI for doing your pull requests? And 1, 2, 3. Don't be shy. What do you use? Claude, Codex, Cursor, Copilot? Okay. Okay. Do you do security advisories to GHSA stuff? Reporting security issues? Okay, so one person. Okay. So, Faseela, the question to you is, what are the policies that you see that different projects are adopting? And does your project have a policy right now? Okay, so.
So from the TOC perspective, you're asking about the AI policies.
AI policies, right? That are
per
project,
seen,
right?
So it's not like we are mandating on any specific AI policy, but what I have seen while reviewing different projects is majorly about if you are reporting a security vulnerability by using some of these AI tools, make sure not to publicly disclose it, use the proper security guidelines and use the security mailing list to report the issues. That's one thing. And many of the projects I have seen, they have put explicit remarks saying if you are using AI to code, whenever you're pushing the PR, make sure that is explicit that you have used AI to generate the PR, but still you have to take the ownership of whatever the PR you're pushing. You are responsible for the code, and you have to make sure what you have done is proper. And if there are problems, you have to take the responsibility on that. So these are the two major things I have seen. But yes, it's true that we are getting so many pull requests these days, and its maintainers are really like burning out at times with too many PRs. In CNCF, we used to have this practice of putting the label good first issue for easy to fix issues, so that people can go and look for it and make your first contribution, which used to be something like, okay, the new contributors would reach out to maintainers and seek their support to understand how the things work. But now it's like that nobody reaches out to anyone, because these are very basic, easy to fix issues that AI can do it for you, and then you simply get the open source contributor badge, and so
Move on.
so these are some things which we have to fix on our end as well.
So Jan, question for you. Do you expect your teams to do double the work in half the time?
So no, I don't
Thank you.
expect
Well, clap, guys.
And let me sort of elaborate on that simple Finnish answer, no. In that sense, that what I see that actually is happening within the developers is that previously developers used more time on actually writing the code. Now they are actually using more time to review the code that the AI produced, and that's why they won't be sort of double the sort of effectiveness in that sense. But also, I want to connect back a bit on what both Daniel and sort of Faseela said here, and this comes to the more as for us as corporates, that what we need to do, because as they said, we are seeing that real issue on maintainers actually sort of burning out and not having enough resources to review all the sort of pull requests that are coming as generated by AI. So actually that boils back down to all of these sort of companies that are sort of benefiting from the open source, that we should actually put even more people into the community, actually helping out these maintainers, sort of review the pull request, do the releases, do the kind of CVE fixing, patching, and whatnot. Because this is an industry-wide problem, and we will all suffer from it if we actually lose these sort of voluntary maintainers, even though they have sort of corporate backing. But many of them are actually working also sort of kind of outside their normal working hours, because I know my sort of people, they are working in sort of very late hours because of the time differences with the US and so on. So we shouldn't, as sort of corporates, expect that we can just put more and more pull requests to these sort of maintainers to do CVE fixes for us and releases for whatever product that we have out there to actually get it sort of fixed. So that is kind of my sort of wish for all of the companies to think about that. How could you sort of increase your kind of contributions as we see this burst of things coming out from AI generated code?
I'm going to pause here just in case you all have questions. I have tons of questions. So, anybody has a question? This is the time to ask your boss to. Come on, go ahead. I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
The AI policy that Faseela talked about, I was a bit confused when I read the policy that you need to sort of disclose the usage, but you take the responsibility and so on. And I don't really see that, like,
what is the connection?
Does it help to have the disclosure? Right. And like, I don't see a way to enforce it.
Yeah, the question is, there are some policies where they say you should disclose your AI usage, but then like, how does it help? And like, how does the maintainers use that information to do that they usually do? I'll start with Faseela and then I'll go to Daniel.
Yes, so from a maintainer lens, so the expectation is that this is clear there, so that we have that in mind when reviewing the code as well, so we can be extra cautious and make sure, um, from the security perspective, and we can be extra cautious while reviewing the code. That is one thing. And from the IP perspective, maybe Daniel can answer.
Yeah, and those are the exact 2 points I was going to make too. Is the maintainer needs to know, does the contributor actually know what they contributed? And again, with the IP, I think that's the most important one. Is machine-generated code doesn't have copyright. It can't hand over what it's created, and who knows what it was trained on, right? So you need to have the person, and all CNCF projects, all Linux Foundation projects, enforce IP through the developer certificate of origin, which says, I, the developer, have the rights to give you this code. I am the single point of ownership. So this clearly defines, and it started with Linux and it's moved on to all of our other projects. But that really is the most important thing, is that the machine can't have copyright, and there has to be a human that has the right to contribute it. So making that very clear too.
I'll ask Jan also. Do you have a policy that, from the company point of view, of what you expect the developers from your company to, participate in the open source project, how they use AI?
So yes, we have sort of internal company policy, how we use AI, and we are actually following mostly the guidance that we are getting from Linux Foundation, especially when it comes to sort of open source projects and how you use AI within the open source project. So we have found it that it's kind of most useful to when we are working with upstream projects to follow that one. Then internally we have a bit different policy that is related more on the internal code and there, which is even actually stricter than what is the kind of LF policy on usage of AI. But that's more due to more stringent sort of IPR reasons, kind of internally, what we are following.
Understood.
So, but yes, we have a policy that is basically following the LF policy.
Awesome. So I'll let you have the last round. I'll start with you. Can you speak a little bit about, like, where do you think we'll be in a few years from now? What do you see for the projects, for the ecosystem, for your company, for your developers, anything you pick?
Well, I'll pick my favorite topic, security. So I think that now we are seeing with AI kind of really big burst on sort of CVs and different kind of vulnerabilities. But I'll expect that to be sort of calming down over the time, because as we go through this first initial, well, it's no longer initial, but anyway, first rounds of sort of securing the code, we will probably actually see much more secure code than what we have had previously inside the industry. And that will sort of help us all in a sense that all the critical infrastructure that we have out there is actually more safe and secure for everybody to use. So I think, as Daniel said, AI is good and bad. It can feel at first very bad that we are seeing this huge amount of things coming out, and many of the maintainers are sort of or kind of maintainers are overloaded with the things that they have to do and the releases that we have to make. But overall, I think that makes the sort of whole cloud native ecosystem more secure. It may of course raise some of the bars how many projects are able to graduate, because you have to have really sort of active ecosystem supporting the projects. But that's where, of course, all of the industry needs to have a sort of own kind of incentives to actually go and contribute to those projects that they feel are critical to them, because unless we do it, nobody is going to do it. So
Thank you, Jan. Faseela.
Yeah, from the TOC perspective, I feel like we are going to have an easy term. I mean, it's like using AI, we will be able to move the projects through the maturity levels faster, leveraging the automation and all the available tools. That is one thing. And from the maintainer angle, I have already started feeling that the release management process and some of those kinds of work are becoming quite easier, and even new people who are onboarding into the teams, right? They don't take much time to understand this whole process, and we are able to support them easily for some of this work.
Anya?
I've got a negative and a positive where I see this stuff going for
Go
5
for it.
years. So the negative thing is, one thing is, there's a lot of people, now they set up their own AI environment, they're cloning, they're forking projects, they're keeping their own copy of it, which is kind of the opposite of what you want to do with open source. You want to have a single place where you can build upon it. So there's a temptation now with these tools to just copy, clone, duplicate, and that's a challenge we have to sort out. On the positive side, I think where we're going is, and this is one of the things that we always do is try to do as project staff. Faseela mentioned this. We have LFX Insights. I want to proactively find and have projects. We find issues. We identify maintainer burnout. We help them be successful by proactively predicting where problems are. So in 5 years, I think we'll do a lot better things in terms of understanding project health, but we also have to deal with the risk of forks and clones. Even if it's just naive, it's just the easiest thing to do instead of getting a pull request accepted upstream.
I had one negative thing to talk about. One thing I'm seeing is that social aspect of the open source community, that is having a huge impact with AI because everyone is equipped and they're doing things on their own. But yeah, even for the LFX mentorship we are talking about, so that helping each other and showing up for each other, and that community aspect, I hope we make sure that that doesn't hit badly.
Let's do better. Thanks a lot, everyone. You were a good audience.